expansion of some of these corporations. Detention facilities should adhere to the strictest of standards. Local jails have to. But the track record for some of these private operations is abysmal. And I'd characterize what happens inside of them as tantamount to human rights abuses. We've seen overcrowding at these facilities, medical negligence leading to a number of deaths, including that of a 27-day-old baby. We've seen children in these facilities whose weight loss has been so severe it's life-threatening, lack of access to toilets and water, inadequate nutrition, and more. In fact, per your testimony this morning, there have been 9 deaths so far in the last few months alone. At the same time, we've seen the costs per bed per day for these facilities increase. The increase in cost to taxpayers obviously hasn't translated into an increase in humane conditions, but I bet it has meant an increase in profits for these private companies. That's what American tax dollars have been funding. And through the Republican reconciliation bill, we're going to see explosive growth in immigration detention and therefore likely explosive growth in what we've seen so far. $80 billion of an increase in the reconciliation bill. We're seeing a 365% increase for detention annually, a 500% increase for transportation annually. I am wondering, if you have this information, how many total detention beds does the reconciliation package create? In other words, what does that increase in funding via reconciliation translate into in terms of beds? And can you tell us the cost per bed per day that we will see through reconciliation in fiscal year 2025 and 2026?
Thank you, ma'am, for your question. In regards to reconciliation, ma'am, as I said earlier, ICE is fiscally responsible for us to focus on reconciliation on something that hasn't happened. What we're focused on is working with your committee and working with members of Congress to ensure that we do add to our bed space capacity in the proper and fiscal way. The main question that you had earlier, ma'am, as far as detention bed space and the cost, that does fluctuate from region to region. What I would really like to ask this committee and help on is in a lot of these sanctuary jurisdictions where we would not have to work with private corporations. There's a lot of state legislation which bars cooperation with ICE. We would much rather partner with a sheriff's department or a state corrections agency, somewhere that's in a state where an individual is arrested, that we don't have to transport all around the country due to lack of bed space. We would really appreciate the support on that.
So, Director Lyons, back to my question. Have you looked at reconciliation and how much bed space that would create?
Yes, ma'am. We are currently, ICE is right now, we are forecasting to move forward on 100,000 beds. But however, we don't have that money now. And what we're working is within our means and the budget that we've been provided to ensure that we work with this committee to be financial in the bed space and manage that the correct way.
My final question, and I have more, which, excuse me, I will submit to you, but I also represent Fort Bliss. We know for a fact, I used to serve on the House Armed Services Committee. We know for a fact that in the past, when military bases have been used for immigration purposes, it has degraded our military readiness, which is one of the many reasons why I oppose using Fort Bliss for detention. But do you know how many beds and the cost per bed that's slated for Fort Bliss?
Ma'am, I would defer to DOD on the cost, as DOD is providing that portion of the budgetary piece. Fort Bliss, right now, we're looking at approximately 3,500 beds at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I'm out of time. I yield back.
Thank you. Mr. Acting Director, if you know, and if you don't, then you need to get back to me on this. How many beds is DOD supporting across military installations for detention purposes for you guys? Gitmo, Fort Bliss, whatever. Can you give us a ballpark number?
Yes, sir. Right now, at Fort Bliss, we do have 69 detainees at Fort Bliss right now. We have reached out to other facilities such as Fort Leonard Wood, Fort Bliss. We're in the process of standing those up. Some of these are going to be new and existing, so the bed space, I don't have the exact count yet, but I will get you that exact count, sir.
Okay. Do you know, is DOD going to bill ICE for that? Is that going to be How are the books going to be trued up between DOD and ICE for space in military facilities that are going to be used for detention activities?
Sir, ICE is providing the contracting vehicle, but the funding for that will come out of DOD budget, sir. So I'd have to refer you to DOD on that, sir.
Okay, so you don't expect to get a bill from DOD for their facilities for detention?
No, sir.
How about military airlift? Do you expect to get a bill from DOD for that, or are they going to absorb that in their budget?
No, sir. I'll refer you to DOD on that one, sir, for the proper answer. But no, sir, I do not expect a bill from DOD.
Okay. How many additional beds do you anticipate bringing online with the transferred funding of the $312.5 million that is the request that you put in for reprogramming?
We're looking to come online, sir, up to 60,000 beds at this time.
And that is through, what's the time frame for those coming online?
Through the beginning of fourth quarter this year, sir.
Okay. Will you still have a shortfall after this potential transferred funding? Do you know?
Sir, I can promise the committee and I guarantee that we're going to financially work within our means to ensure that we do not have a shortfall, sir.
Okay, finally on information. This isn't on you, but frankly, information in a fast-moving budgetary environment is a precious thing. I would appreciate it if you, for your part, would let folks know up your chain of command that this information, if it's not coming in real time, is not useful. And so I'll leave it at that for purposes of our discussion. And I want to thank you for your service. I know it's not an easy time to do that. And obviously, speaking only for myself, I support your goal. But we also, at the same time, have to keep in mind things like the Anti-Deficiency Act and stuff like that. And I'll just be honest with you. Speaking for me, I don't know that I have the information that I need to make sure that we're doing our job in the context of that. So we could really, really use that. Same thing I've told all other agency directors. We won't surprise you. Please do not surprise us. And so for members that have get-back questions, I would ask you to respond to those within 15 days of today. We ask also that for additional questions that it's a 30-day timeline to get that back. Obviously, we're moving quickly on trying to move these bills. I thank you for your participation in today's hearing, and the subcommittee stands adjourned. Ma'am, after the room clears, I would like you